Welcome to the perfect storm. How did we get here and where do we go from here? That is a question that is on my mind, and I'm sure a lot of other people's minds as well. Welcome to Techie Bites. As I mentioned this week, I'm going to be discussing GameStop. I'm going to be discussing Wall Street bets, hedge funds, all really super interesting stuff. But where do we start with this story? I think is really important. Where we start with this story is really important. So let's all take a step back and think about for a second. For the past almost year now, we have all been trapped at home. Thanks to the pandemic, we've been antsy, we've been angry, we've been disillusioned. And now, in an opportunity that felt like an empowering movement almost to take back what was ours, what the people saw as an opportunity, we're being shut down, and it's very frustrating. But let's start talking about how we got here. So let's think about way back when, 2008, financial crisis time. The big banks royally screwed over the people, right? They really effed everyone. Similarly to how these guys were selling subprime mortgages to people who couldn't and who shouldn't have qualified for them, only then to kick them out of their houses, which apparently, by the way, just in case you didn't know, is okay. It's not illegal because, well, no one ever went to jail for this. Nonetheless, the big banks and the financial institutions are at it again. If you can believe that. I mean, and why wouldn't you at this point? And they're attempting to screw the little guy by manipulating markets even further, more so than usual. All right? So let me be clear before we go any further about talking about any of this. What is being described on this episode is what we call day trading. It's risky. I'm going to just say it. I'm going to flat out say it. It's risky, and it's not usually a healthy or good way to make a living. That being said, the everyman and woman has been presented with a unique opportunity that I am trying to take advantage of, and I think most people probably should look into taking advantage of it if they have the means to do it, because there is an opportunity out there, and there is some money to be made, assuming we can stick together here. Now, GameStop, AMC, Nokia, BlackBerry, and others are trending this week because of this market presented opportunity. It is an opportunity. It's not just that people are getting together and saying, let's make the price of this stock rise because that'll be cool, and we'll all do it together, and then we'll all sell. And that never works well. The reason why people are doing what they're doing right now is because there is an opportunity, and let's talk about that. So right now there is a massive short sell on these stocks, and what the opportunity that's been presented to people who identified this massive short sell. In fact, companies like Melvin Capital bet 140% essentially, bought 140% of the outstanding stock. That's more stock than is available. They shorted it, actually. So what we're seeing now is this opportunity for what's called a short squeeze. And essentially what happens is if you can get enough people to buy a stock, you can get the price to increase, and then you hold that stock, right? You don't sell it right away. You get it. You keep increasing the price, right? Eventually, what's going to end up happening is these hedge funds have to cover the shorts that they've bought up, and to do that, what they do is they buy the stock back at a higher price to close out their position. Essentially, the reason why they do this in what's called a margin call is because their broker, whoever that they're buying through, is requiring them to put up more cash because they're losing money at such a fast rate through these shorts. Now, this is a technique. This is a tactic on Wall Street that has been tried and true and done again and again by other hedge funds, by other market makers, by other billionaires. Carl Icahn, Dan Loeb, Bill Ackman all did this. Look, I tell you, look up Bill Ackman and Herbalife and then Carl Icahn and Dan Loeb and what they did. It's the same thing. But what's the problem here? The problem here is that I can't believe I'm saying this. The only problem is that what's a few billion between friends versus, some guy in Nebraska or Texas or Maine at working with other people, a woman in Minnesota or Idaho, buying this stock. They just don't want to give you a piece of the action. These guys, it's okay if they steal from each other. They're all part of the old boys club. It is what it is. But as soon as you get in on the action following the same exact rule set that these guys set up, no, you can't. So this works. And right now what's happening is that these hedge funds are trying to scare us. They're trying to scare retail investors away from these stocks so they can get back in the money. And what they've ended up doing is by manipulating the markets even further by somehow getting Robinhood to not allow their retail investors, which is, by the way, is their core user base, to be able to buy additional shares in these companies is frankly is illegal. Should be illegal if it's unbelievable. I've never has anything happened like this. And the reason why we were able to do this is because of the tools and the capabilities that were provided by Robinhood with options trading and the ability to buy stock. The very fact that they were working towards democratizing the markets, and then they do a 180 and they're like, you know what, these guys, Citadel, Melvin, they pay our bills actually. So we're just going to bend over backwards and not let our customers, I shouldn't even say customers. The people like you and me who are using Robinhood are not their customers. We're their users. Their customers are companies like Citadel and Melvin Financial and not us. So they are basically taking advantage of the relationships they have. Well, so who's taking advantage? The companies like Citadel are taking advantage of the relationships that they have with Robinhood by essentially probably forcing them to do this. And the fact that Robinhood, we'll get to this in a little bit, has come out and said, we were just being proactive. That's not an answer. That doesn't even make any sense. Proactive. And then to say you're being proactive while at the same time saying it's not a liquidity issue is even more mind-boggling. But let's jump back a little bit before we move on to talk about Citadel and some other topics related to why these guys just stopped and how disturbing that is. Let's talk a little bit about how incredible it is. I just want to say that a community made up at the time of around 3 million individuals, with maybe hundreds or thousands of dollars in their bank accounts, making as much of an impact on the markets as a hedge fund? As a hedge fund? That's impressive. It's so powerful to see something like that and not want to be part of that movement. Now, so props to Wall Street Bets, props to the community. What you did is incredible. You got their attention. You got their attention. Now, that being said, the response we're seeing, as I had mentioned just before, is disturbing. Robinhood is basically owned by these hedge funds. So when you go to here, and here's how it works. I'm going to highlight a couple pieces of information that I think will really be eye-opening for many people. When you go to sell a stock, okay, on Robinhood, These hedge funds, essentially what they do is these guys, they come in, they're like, I'm going to buy the stock right now. And then I'm going to buy so much of it so fast, and it's just going to shoot up the price by like what, 2 cents? And then when you sell, I'm going to make money. Why is that allowed? I don't know. In fact, this is what something that has been explored to be actually potentially banned, and I think that the Biden administration should look into banning this type of these types of market flows that essentially allow for this. Now, when they make the money, oh boy, when they make this money, that is how they stay in business. How else would you say that a company like Robinhood could provide free services when everyone else is charging for it? How else could they? They couldn't without this other method of revenue. That's the long and short of it. It's pretty much what it comes down to. And I didn't mean to use a financial kind of term there, but it kind of worked out. Nonetheless, so as I mentioned, there's a company called Citadel, and they actually are one of the companies that accounts for 40 out of every 100 shares traded by an individual or retail investor in the United States. So 40%. 40%. One company is responsible for 40% of market making in the US. And here's the thing. When the volatility increases, when it goes up and the spread widens, they're making even more money. So if you're not angry about what's happening, let me give you a wake-up call and tell you, you should be. This is not free markets. I don't know. This is unbelievable markets. This is some real bull is what it is. So last year, Citadel made $4.1 billion in profit. Now, let's take a turn real quick and let's just talk about a couple other things. One is that I don't think Robinhood ever expected their user base to bite the hand that feeds them, which obviously Robinhood in this case. So basically what I'm saying is I do not think Robinhood ever thought, and nor did these hedge funds for that matter, which kind of goes to just show how stupid they really are. They never thought that something like this could happen. I mean, how could they be so naive about it? They literally are providing the tools to democratize the marketplace. That's everything that they've talked about. And now that these tools are in the hands of the every person, and they're able to compete when they get together, now suddenly playing by their rules is not good enough. You have to be better. And it's beyond frustrating for sure. Now, these tools have enabled retail investors to buy and sell stock options and stocks with ease and at no cost. It's a great thing. But not if it comes at the expense of free markets. Now, I personally invested a little bit of money into AMC the other day before trading was halted and I couldn't buy anymore. And I'm excited to see how this plays out. I've invested an amount that I'm willing to lose. I think it'll be exciting to see if we can get it. I'm going to hold. You should hold too. If we can get it to go up by holding the stock, buying the stock, and really squeezing these guys for every dollar that they're worth, I would not shed a tear for them. That I can say for certain. Now, let me start kind of finalizing what I'm saying here and saying what's happening here is essentially a travesty. They're stacking the deck against retail investors. As I mentioned earlier, day trading is not easy. And I'm not saying that everyone who's participating in this is going to get out of it on ahead. I may not. But that's okay. I've invested an amount of money that I'm willing to lose. That's okay. But I'm willing to try and take in the upside here. There is an upside. There is an opportunity. And what's happening isn't capitalism or free markets. It's the rich covering their ass and exerting their power to squash the every person. And it shouldn't be something that's allowed. And I'm glad to see people up in Congress starting to take note of that. What will happen from this? Well, we've already seen that hearings are apparently underway, which is good. I don't know what's going to end up happening, whether there will be regulations or reforms. There certainly should be. Should you be allowed to short a stock? Should you be allowed to short a stock without some kind of insurance? Because otherwise I could see the detriment to how guys like Melvin Capital short all these shares and then don't have the money, and then they basically have to be bailed out by fellow hedge funds. As long as my tax dollars are not going towards their bailout, I don't really care. But it could have a strain on the financial system. I understand that. Now, I believe in free markets. I believe in capitalism. I think there's always money to be made out there. You just need to know where to look. And what has happened here is really fascinating. What Wall Street Bets has done is not only fascinating and empowering, as I mentioned, but it's proven that their empowerment is infectious. I've seen stories already on Reddit of people paying off mortgages, cars from these trades. And that is amazing. Amazing. And all I have to say to that is if every person isn't even allowed to play by the same rules as the fat cats, well, then at what point did I wake up in Russia? Right? And because last I checked, this is still the good old US of A. And I want to end with a couple notes about the Robinhood co-founder Vlad Tenev. And it's these things almost write themselves in such a bizarre way, honestly. So prior to all of this happening yesterday, I went back. I saw a tweet that Robinhood's co-founder, and what was his most recent tweet up until I guess yesterday, was a tweet about Martin Luther King Day. And he wrote, "Today we reflect on the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., all that he held accomplished, and all the hard work that remains to create a just and fair society in the United States and around the world." I don't know about you guys, but I freaking love the part about creating a just and fair society. How about you let us trade then, Vlad? How about you let us trade? And I can't believe any of this stuff that's happening. Let me also just say that I saw Vlad on Chris Cuomo's show last night. It's a fantastic interview, by the way. Chris does a really good job, as he always does. But in this interview, Vlad stumbles through the answers that he's providing. He essentially has no insight or answers as to why they actually stopped allowing people to make those trades on the particular stocks. At least nothing that's, believable or, that makes sense in any way. So I just have to say, while it really was nice and refreshing to see Chris Cuomo eviscerate Mr. Tenev, it is certainly maddening to see that even with his excellent interview, we weren't able to get any answers out of him or get any closer to the truth. So this is something that we will have to continue to watch as it plays out I am for one long AMC. I think that there's a movement here. I feel very empowered. I feel very excited about it. I'm not going to start day trading, but I'm excited about the possibilities here. And I really hope the SEC and the government does what's right here. I really do. So I'm going to be keeping an eye, as I mentioned, on these developments as they unfold. I'm curious to know, what do you guys think about all this? Did you buy anything? Did you buy any of these stocks? What do you think about the situation? Who's right? Who's wrong? Am I right? Am I being ridiculous? Let me know. Leave me a comment, or feel free to email me, Jeff or Best Techie, or you can obviously, of course, tweet at Jeff Weisbein or at Best Techie. And I just want to say thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. And remember, take care of your computers.